Well, hi everyone. Uh, Today is Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. Um, 13 days into the new year, and it feels like I'm asking myself, are we halfway through yet? Uh, Welcome. I'm Jeffrey Morgan, and this is a talk I host twice a week to discuss my experiences on the path of soul transcendence. This offering is brought to you by the movement of spiritual inner awareness with the encouragement and support of my friend John Morton, who holds the mystical traveler consciousness, which is the spiritual consciousness that does the work that we're doing here today. If you're new to the call, the format is simple. We're going to start by calling ourselves forward into the light, which is calling our awareness forward into the light of God that's already present. And then we're going to chant three Anai hues. Hue is an ancient name for God, and Anai invokes a quality of empathy and compassion. Then I'm going to play a video clip from my teacher, John Roger. And then I'm going to do a reading from Rumi. And then we can talk about whatever you would like. And if you are new to the call or you're new to this whole thing called Soul Transcendence and the movement of spiritual inner awareness, and you feel called to raise your hand, yes, I'm talking to you. I'll call on you first, and you'll always get preferential treatment on this call. So if you do feel called, please raise your hand. So with that, Ron, bring us home, baby. Let's do it.
Da 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 da. Oh wait, that was another show.
Perfect.
Lord God of all creation, we come before you this evening with love in our hearts and the intention to become yet even more aware of that love. For the truth of the matter is, that is the essence of the reality that we are inhabiting. We are so grateful for this opportunity to come forward with a group of people who are standing forward in their not willingness, but determination to move more freely into that loving essence, the awareness of it, that is our very nature. And for this time together, Lord, and for our friend Jeffrey, we give our thanks. So be it.
When I do my essays, is that for me to become spiritually free, or am I already spiritually free?
Okay, you are already spiritually free, you don't know it. And to do SCs is so you get to know that you are spiritually free.
Okay.
Spiritual exercises are a specific thing for you as an individual to know and validate the working of the traveler with you in the spirit world. But if you don't know, the work still goes on anyway.
Will I know?
I don't know what people will know. The opportunity will be there for you to know, and if you haven't prepared yourself to know, it's like saying, will I pass the bar exam? The law bar exam, and I say, I don't know. Have you studied for it? You say no, and I say unlikely, and you say, yeah, I've taken 4 years of law school, I've taken 3 practice exams, I passed it at 98%. I'll say, good chance you'll just haul right through it. SEs is preparing for the exam to see if you wake up to it. But it's not a test.
So if I don't know, I won't flunk.
There's no flunking on this. It's just a playback. It's like giving you a spelling quiz to see which words you don't know. Then you don't have to study what you know, you just study what you don't know. And you get to find out what you don't know, so you focus on it. It's a statement of awareness. It's a whole different way of looking at things. So we're not looking at failure, we're looking at progression.
Okay.
If you look forward to failure, what you behold, you can become. So you'll become a failure. So we look forward to success. And if you behold success, you can have it.
All right. This is a short but beautiful one by Rumi from a book I just bought. Compilation of his poetry called In the Arms of the Beloved. And this is from part 2, The Beloved. There is a place where words are born of silence, a place where the whispers of the heart arise. There is a place where voices sing your beauty, a place where every breath carves your image in my soul. And I would venture to say that spiritual exercises might be that place. So, all right. I don't recall. I think, Stephen, did we delay you previously? And we didn't have time for you last time? Okay, we're going to start with Stephen.
Thank you, Jeffrey, and Happy New Year, everyone. My question is something I've been struggling with ever since my 20s, and it's this idea that we have an aspiration that this is our last lifetime. I've heard a lot of people say, "This is my last lifetime," um, and I'm working on a book based on the life of my stepfather, Marcy Goldstein, that many people know. And he often said that. And I'm just struggling with the concept of aiming for that. If I understand correctly, we choose to incarnate here to learn. And part of me wonders, like, why would we want to remove that option if it's valuable? And then the other part says, like, if we have it as an aspiration, sort of from a Buddhist point of view of desire, wouldn't that automatically bind us to have other lifetimes? So I struggle with this whole idea of like claiming or stating that this is my last lifetime, and I'm just hoping I'm missing something. So I'm hoping you can enlighten me.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful set of questions and a lot to take on. So I think the first thing we have to be honest about is we often talk about things that we really don't know or can't really contemplate intellectually. We know within the confines of this simulation and this experience of this lifetime. So I think for my own part, I came in, my mother said I was, born with a cigar in my mouth, kind of like, just very like, oh God, this again, you know. And so I was born with a kind of weariness about being here on this planet, as if I had seen the same play, the same set of reruns over and over and over. And I know the plot and I know the characters and I know the ending, and I'm just tired of it. Or it's like you're going on all the rides at Disneyland over and over and over and eating all the junk food and the funnel cake, and the ride that makes you the most queasy, you got to go on that one the most. And it's like, when do I get to go home? So I think that whole sentiment of like, oh, this is my last lifetime, comes from this very deep and primordial fatigue with this constant or repeated experience. And every experience that we have here carries with it this kind of undercurrent of, oh God, I've seen this play before. I know how this one ends. And we can't even explain why, because part of this whole embodiment thing is amnesia. And the karma that usually drives the majority of our 10% level, our physical experiences, are the very things that we don't remember. So, but we do have this sense, this inkling that says, hey, I know that I've done this before. Deja vu over and over and over again. So the reason I say that is because it's like I recognize that sentiment, and I think that there are various levels of relationship that we have to soul transcendence, and in a sense, incentives that drive us to continue chanting that tone or continue moving deeper. And we use different framings. It's accurate to say that the soul, as a simulated experience or as an individuated experience of God perceiving individually, is for the purpose of gaining experience and learning, like a school. And the purpose is for the soul to gain that experience and reach a relationship of co-creatorship with God, meaning to be as one with God, individuated, and yet one with God, and yet participating in God's will as one. That experience wasn't possible with God as it is, because God is oneness. So there's not a togetherness experience, or there's not a co-experience to it. But the soul needed to gain maturity in order to be in that partnership relationship, or that co-creatorship relationship. So we go through the experiences, but unfortunately, the soul had it, in order to make all of those experiences mean something and have the learning opportunities, amnesia was required. And so the soul can also get tricked and get stuck in this cycle. And that's where you get back into the Disneyland experience, where you're stuck and you're going on all the rides. And it's real fun the first couple of times. Like, you can kind of tell new souls that are entering the planet, because they're going and doing all the stuff. But then sometimes it's a bit deceptive, because sometimes you meet an old soul that's just like, well, fuck it, I've tried everything else, so I might as well try all these drugs and having sex with all these people, because there ain't no point anyway. So you can see both. But then you get to the folks like myself and many people on this call, where you just go, yeah, I pretty much tried all of that stuff. And now I'm just ready to go home. And then if things align and it's supported, and my experience is the Christ action supports that, you then get to meet a mystical traveler, one who holds the mystical traveler consciousness, and then you can indeed go home. But it's funny, because desire is an important word. And it's important because this entire fabric of experience, everything below the soul realm, is under the jurisdiction of that illusionary process. So inevitably, if we don't have connection to the sound current, and we don't have access to that authentic manifestation of God, that which we are worshiping, or taking, they would say taking darshan, or gazing upon or adoring. That which we worship inevitably is a lower form that will pull us back into a cycle of re-embodiment. So in a sense, it is the soul's own remembrance of its origin and its rekindling of a deep and unquenchable thirst and profound love for this ocean of love and mercy, for this authentic manifestation of God that ultimately pulls us out of the cycle. In a sense, it's not that we were trapped, it's that we were tricked, in a sense, or that we were lulled, or that we were daydreamed. And when we awaken, when the soul begins to awaken by the grace of the mystical traveler and the sound current, it's an extraordinary thing. It's like you remember that you're in love with someone, but that someone is outside of creation. So the yearning is natural, the pain, the heartache is natural in that sense. But I don't know that the culmination is ultimately a rejection of the physical. My experience is the more we surrender into this experience of the ocean of love and mercy and beyond, the more we experience that same process of dying while living, where in a sense, instead of saying consequentially, oh, this is my last lifetime, I will return to the soul realm when I die, you daily return to the soul realm and you bring that soul realm back into your experience in the physical. And the Spirit expresses through you by way of the Holy Spirit and the sound current that you hold and anchor through the initiation. So in a sense, you get to a place where it becomes, it's not that you don't have an aspiration to be home with God. It's that the culmination or the fulfillment of that aspiration is something that is within your experience even now. And it's within your spiritual heritage and your right to experience it now. So there is a funny story I remember reading from a yogi, and I can't remember. The story goes something like this great yogi had been meditating lifetime after lifetime and had really been on the straight and narrow path. And he goes and finally meditates on Brahman and goes before Brahman and says, okay, I've done penance and meditation for all these lifetimes. How many more lifetimes do I have before I can finally be at one with you and leave this cycle and be and reach that Advaita Vedanta experience, that oneness of completely transcending this? And Brahman says, oh, you're doing wonderfully, only 1,000 more lifetimes. And he was, and then you see this kind of like village idiot saint kind of like wandering around. And Brahman says to the saint, how many more lifetimes do you think you have? And the man in his fervor says, I don't know, maybe 10,000 more. Who cares? And Brahman goes, it's his last lifetime. So in a sense, there is a point at which we surrender the desire for a notion of what's next. And we completely embrace the idea or embrace the reality that God consciousness is available now. That even as we are souls, individuated drops of this ocean of love and mercy that are experiencing through the construct of the mind and the ego and the consciousness in this life, that we are simultaneously spirit, that we are simultaneously God essence, and that God essence is connected to everything in all creation, that we are in fact all creation all at once. We are the entire ocean in a drop, not a drop of the ocean. And I think that there's really no problem with somebody saying, this is my last lifetime. It's like whatever gets you out of bed in the morning, It's not easy being human. And as the Chinese was the Chinese proverb, or I guess Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. I think we can all agree with we live in some interesting times, perhaps some of the more interesting times in recent history. And I don't fault people for coming up with whatever gets them motivated, whatever gets them chanting God's name one more time. Great. At the same time, I think that there is this trap of consequentialism that comes in. And I think that when we really dissolve into that, when we really dissolve into that ocean of love and mercy, and we really experience it as a practical reality, we end up just saying, "Thank you, Lord, and thy will be done." And if thy will be done as another lifetime, then it's like you're so in bliss and so in oneness with that. And the truth is, I mean, the fine print on all of this and us studying in the School of Travelers and the work that we do, it is very possible that we come to the end of this life pattern. We're in that communion with God, and God says, "Well, you're actually really good at holding that spirit thing. I'm going to send you back down to be a mystical traveler of this planet or this other planet." So you earn yourself a return trip anyway. In a sense, it just hasn't helped me. There was a point at which I was just so afraid of, like, oh, what if this isn't my last lifetime? And I realized that I was somehow turning something infinite into something finite in my mind. And I realized that I was also depriving myself of the opportunity to just experience the reality of complete oneness of God right now. And there's just this bill of sale that we get sold. There's this myth that we get sold that somehow being here precludes us from 100% simultaneously being in God consciousness, when the truth is it's happening simultaneously. We're just not aware of it. It's interesting because in order for us to experience choice and attention and consciousness in what we're doing right now, that pure God consciousness, that awareness that underpins all of this, gets placed in a container so that we can experience it. Does that mean that that awareness or that total God consciousness is gone? No, that just means that we've placed our focus, or the focus of our experience or perception is placed in a container so that we can have this wonderful experience in this school. And so for me, the most loving thing I can do for myself is to spend less time worrying about that. Did I screw it up? Am I going to have to come back? And more time looking at loving and serving the one in front of me and chanting God's name just one more time. Just one more time. Just one more time. They call another word for the repetition of the names of God that we use. In our case, it's the Panchnam, or the 5 names. And in the case of, where you just chant Hugh, right? Depending on. So Simran can mean repetition, but it can also mean remembrance or attention, or keeping something in mind or in your heart. So for example, like if I was thinking of you all day, I was taking Simran of you all day. So in a sense, what we're really talking about here when we chant God's name and we bring ourselves into that consciousness of the sound current, it's the same as saying, let your eye be, like the eye is the light of the body, let your eye be single, or keep your eyes on the Lord, or seek first the kingdom of God, and all else will be added unto you. It's that same sentiment of keeping that focus, keeping that awareness, worshiping something other than the lower forms that we tend to worship. On this planet, on the physical level, we tend to worship the dollar more than just about anything else. But we worship other things too. And sometimes, as you pointed out, we worship fear of reincarnation, or we worship because the time that we spend worrying is time that we're not spending just being at one in that place of awareness of our oneness with God. And I'm saying this as somebody who probably spent the majority of my life worrying about screwing up or falling off my spiritual path. Like I expended a lot of energy. And when I freed up that energy and just said, how can I love on people more? How can I love on myself more? How can I serve more? How can I make myself more available to God's action on this planet? Ultimately, that is what eliminated the stress and eliminated the pressure. And I have the same thing about the world. It's like I could spend all the time bitching about the craziness of the world and how could they do that and why would they do that and how dare they. And then it occurred to me that it was far more healing to me to find somebody who needs support and give it to them. Like I could complain about the homeless crisis in Los Angeles, or I could just go feed people, or I could complain about the state of people suffering and how they're not getting what they need from this or that, or I could make myself available to provide whatever support I know how to give. And I find that it's like leaving my mind idle is often a recipe for trouble. But if I can focus it on my tone, or if I can focus it on serving, there's something very healing about that. If I'm busy loving, I'm not available to the useless negative thoughts and negative projections that my mind tends to prefer. If I can make loving the loudest voice in my consciousness, then I know something like peace.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
My pleasure. Anderson, have you shared before? Thumbs up. You have shared before? Oh, just once? Yeah, yeah. Here, I'll ask you to. Yeah.
I just shared once, and my question has to do with what you have so beautifully described.
Okay.
So I am still new to the movement of inner spiritual awareness, but I have been very, very spiritual. And one of my beliefs is that if God had a currency, it would be based solely on charity and service. And by service, I mean helping one another as sentient beings. So, to weird or karma, and we have learned our lessons, do we continue serving? And if yes, in what ways do we serve? Thank you very much.
Um, your reception was a bit punchy, so I didn't hear all of that.
Oh, okay. I can repeat.
Yeah,
So,
what I
so
heard you say is after we complete our karma, do we serve or
no,
something?
no.
No.
I have this belief that if God had a currency, this currency would be based on charity and service. And when I mean service, I mean helping one another as sentient beings.
Mm-hmm.
So once we have cleared our karma and we go home, do we continue serving? And if yes, in what ways do we serve? Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, no problem. So, couple points. So it's difficult to answer your question because firstly, when we serve down here, we're still working within a karmic field. The thing that can be more of a spiritual consciousness is the consciousness of service. It's like you lose yourself in the consciousness of service. So selfless service creates a more receptive consciousness to the action of spirit through us. But the act of serving is often the fulfillment of a karma. We may not know it, but our own proclivity or pull to do service is usually completing a karma from the past. The currency of this planet is karma, right? Like everything needs karma in order to be here, in order to function. So it's not a bad thing. It's just this is a field of polarity of space and time. And in that it is movement and action, which is karma. My experience is if you're talking about initiation, there is in the work that we do, initiation into the sound current, there is a kind of bidirectional process that takes place. The sound current allows us to shift the focal point of our reference point as a soul from into different levels of the sound current, which allow us to reference from different levels of consciousness. A soul referencing from soul consciousness can be of greater service to the planet as a commutator of God's light. Because the soul that is awakened to soul, to spirit within itself, rather than to the lower forms, is able to hold higher and higher frequencies of non-magnetic or spiritual light. And the Holy Spirit will often express through the consciousness of individuals on this planet. So spirit will express non-magnetic or spiritual light will express into the magnetic field through the consciousness of those who can hold and commutate that light. So in that sense, once a soul has cleared enough karma and established itself in soul consciousness or beyond soul consciousness, it is generally more able to work its own karma, because the process of initiation is only clearing enough karma to allow the initiations to hold at each level. So then often souls will go back in and start to clean up some of the mess in the karmic field on those other levels. But additionally, what I've witnessed is that a soul that is established in the soul realm and beyond is more able to commutate and hold higher and higher frequencies of light as an anchor point or pillar of light on this planet. So that is a form of service that is available. We do ordinations, ministerial ordinations, and we have ministers in the movement of spiritual inner awareness. And those ordinations are to the order of the Melchizedek priesthood. And the consciousness of ministry in the movement of spiritual inner awareness is very unique in the world, in that the defining characteristic of ministry is service. Now, you could say that of any ministry in any church on the one hand, but usually those ministries are defined more by authority and title and ritualistic roles.
Mm-hmm.
Ministry in the movement of spiritual inner awareness is built primarily upon the willingness to serve and be commutators and expressions of God's light on this planet. So it is a way by which God's light is expressed and made manifest through service on this planet. And that can be very physical, but it's like more about the consciousness that by which we serve. So it's like plugging into a very strong power grid of incredible spiritual energy that expresses through you. When I serve as a minister, my experience is that it's not me doing it, it's really God doing it or Spirit doing it. And I have the privilege of participating in that action. So that's how that works. I think that your point about, I don't know that I would describe charity or kindness or service as a currency or as spiritual currency. I do experience service as a way to build light, like what JR would call light units, which is building spiritual energy within the consciousness that can then be used in the context of spiritual growth. So you can build light units by chanting and doing spiritual exercises at times, but often through selfless service, energy is built up in the consciousness that is then used for growth and awakening. But I would not advise that anyone look at service in a transactional manner. And I also would not advise trying to, in a sense, intellectualize that process. Giving and receiving on this planet is very much subject to the law of karma and what John Roger referred to as the law of Amra. And there's a way in which energy is exchanged in a balanced way on this planet, and there's a way that energy needs to be exchanged in order to maintain balance on this planet. And one of the main medium of exchanges on this planet is money, and the other is time and effort and energy. So service, but service in exchange for compensation in some capacity, or service as a trade. For me, I don't really keep score or think about it in that way. Instead, I look at it more as medicine, where I would use all that I experience for my upliftment, growth, and learning, and everything that I experience as a way of unlocking deeper and deeper parts of the truth of who I am. But I can use difficult experiences or arguments or fights just as easily as I can use service, just as easily as I can use anything else. I just assume that everything is a conversation with God, that the Spirit is in constant conversation with me, offering me that next catalyst that brings me deeper into myself. And yeah.
So sorry. My some of my MSIA friends, they told me that John Roger liked Walt Whitman, and there is something beautiful that Walt Whitman wrote that describes what you're saying. And he wrote that we can be as divine as God. Uh, all of us, we find letters paraphrasing dropped by God, and we leave them where we found them because we know we will find more. So I really appreciate your response, and I will continue exploring this path.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I believe that JR did love Walt Whitman. I know that a dear friend of mine, Vincent, once found, I think, a copy of Leaves of Grass in at JR's house, and he, it, it definitely has something very special. So I completely understand why Walt Whitman would speak to you deeply from a spiritual level. He seems to be one of those great beacons of light in history that speaks to me in the way that Rumi speaks to me and the way that Kabir speaks to me. I read a lot of folks, and I have actually read poems by Walt Whitman as well. So, excerpts from Song of Myself. just very, 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 very moving. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for speaking up. And yeah, would love to support you as you continue to explore.
I appreciate the support I am receiving, and thank you very much for your time and for creating this space.
Yeah, my pleasure. Okay, Ronaldo.
Oh, Jeffrey,
Hi.
thanks for calling on me. Um, First of all, Happy New Year to you and everyone else. Um, I think it's most interesting that the topic, JR's topic was on SEs, and my question is in that regards. So I'm gonna try to laser it. I just kind of took off the last part there, so I'm kind of coming back. Um, I would say most of my SC's experiences, you know, been doing this for a while. I would say have been what I would call mm, that I've had to been able to bypass my mental chatter rather easy. Couple of tones, blah blah blah. I'm gone. Fantastic. And I'm okay with that. But in the last month or so, I'm not quite sure what's maybe happening, conscious or unconscious, but I may start chanting. I'll try different alternatives. One of the names first, maybe the others, maybe the last few, what have you. So just trying to figure out what I kind of have this image now, a rocket. Okay, so what's the rocket fuel I gotta put in to take off? And but like I said, all of a sudden mental chatter comes in, whatever's going on in the world comes in, concerns comes in, and I just get like I may get half an hour, 25 minutes, a little bit restless, so forth. I'll listen to a tape and that's it. So I'm just kind of asking, is there something that you can see, you go, maybe there's that, there's this, something that can be cleared, something that can be of support to me, that something I may not be seeing at this point that can be of assistance to me so that my SEs are much more
Yeah,
devotional initiative.
yeah, you're holding for more on the planet than you were before.
Mm.
Like you're holding for more actions in the world than you were before. And so as you're trying to go into spiritual exercises, some of what's processing through you is coming to your consciousness and kicking up the mental chatter. Um, so part of it is, um, if we have this intention of like, how can I be of highest service, Lord, whatever that may be, that highest service might be you being uncomfortable and just holding in that energy and chanting through it. More often than not, so I've gone through phases of what you're talking about. And what's really helped is to, instead of trying to get the mind out of the way so that I can focus on at a certain point, and this is not true for everybody, it's certainly not true in the beginning, but with what you're holding and what I'm seeing for you, so this is very particular to you, it would be beneficial more to look at it as stuff that may need your light, or maybe that you're working with. So it's like almost like I might be holding for a species of plant on the planet, and for some reason I keep thinking of that plant, and all I really need to do is to create a connection point for the consciousness to go through me into that. So it's like, oh, the plant is aloe vera or something like that. So then all of a sudden, I place my consciousness into the molecular structure and into the root and into the oversoul of aloe vera, or the consciousness of the Davic form that's responsible for aloe vera. And that just creates a connection point for the spirit to come through and work with that being. And then it just lightens up and releases. So it may be that you're being asked to place your awareness in certain places just to create a connection point for the consciousness that's trying to work through you at that moment. So you could check, I mean, check inside. I'm just not seeing anything like to clear. It's more like um, it's more like you have an uncomfortable approach right now to something that is spirit guided. And so it'd be like finding a way to harmonize and go, oh, okay, you want me to place my consciousness there. Okay, did that do the trick? Great. Okay. And then it lets go, because that's all it needed. It just needed you to put your light in there.
No, I think what you said, the reframing of that is just fantastic. That's like, okay, so Lord, if that's what you want, okay, let me see what's going on here. Light to that, whatever you need me to do, I surrender completely, unconditionally, whatever needs to be done. Okay, all right. Is there something? So just to me, what you've said so far, to me, it's like, okay, but that's a game changer for me, because now
And
I'm
you'll know if I'm right, if like, because my experience is it really does let go. Like once you've done the thing that you're being called to do as service, it will actually let go, and then you just go out. So so it may be but I just saw it's like you've entered a chapter where you're holding for a little bit more than you were previously, and maybe more responsibility than you were dealing with previously, in terms of being just an anchor point on the planet,
Mhm,
which is fine.
mhm.
They wait until you're comfortable and then they turn up the volume, right?
Okay, all right. Yeah, well, that's great. I know that's very useful. That's very useful because it opens up lots of
And
possibilities.
one of the things that'll often happen, that I've been experiencing lately, is sometimes it'll just want me to have my awareness in something in a neutral way, and it may be my own history with the thing is getting in the way of what it is that I'm supposed to do there to hold the light. So like I might have history. It's like it's something extreme, like, oh, we need you to have your awareness. Have to wear awareness of this demonic realm when you've been spending all these years like clearing for that thing, and like, oh, it's bad, and oh, I don't. But then you go, well, the traveler runs through all of it, and you get to this place where it goes, no, no, actually it's about neutral awareness. Like you're aware of the demon, but you don't have any qualms with it. You just say, this is God's creation. Out of God comes all things, including this.
Mhm, mhm.
And so sometimes your own history with it can cause a contraction or some kind of a disturbance in the field that then causes a backup that then causes this. So sometimes it may be that you start to touch into it and you feel like a something. You go, okay, is there something that I'm doing there that is creating tension or resistance? And I clear that memory, and then all of a sudden it just flows again. Now, this is not going to be applicable to 99% of the people on this call probably, but I think it may assist you. So,
Yeah, I mean, at one point I was dealing with my mom, and she had a hairline pelvic fracture, and I was very much involved, with the medical doctors and this and that. And so I said, well, maybe that's part of it. I'm really the concerns about that, but then once
that's
that kind
often
of cleared up, yeah.
that's often the surface level. So like that's the symptom. So the mind will search for distraction, but
Mhm.
that's the symptom.
Okay.
Then you ask, okay, wait, what am I really being called? Like, what am I really being called to put my light on right now? And then you just follow that. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
like your mind, like my classic one is I'll go, oh, I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling something in there because of something at work, or
Mm.
because I had this difficult conversation with somebody there, or I had a bad sharing with this person, or this session didn't go, whatever it is.
Right,
But
right,
inevitably, if that were the case, then it would clear right away because I would be on it. But
right.
the problem is then I'll just keep doing it, but nothing will happen. It won't clear. It won't, right? It
Mm.
doesn't move. So you kind of have to go, wait. what do I really need to do here? What am I tying into, and what am I really where's the light needed? And then you just go and then you do it, and then it releases.
Yeah, I know what you mean about the mind. I call it the great cataloger.
Yeah,
Searches in his catalog book to say, okay, what are the reasons there? But when you were talking, I could also feel a lot of, let's say, more deeper undercurrents. So I know that
yes.
what you're talking about is like, okay, so it gives me, a
Play
way
with
to
it.
be, yeah, to play with it and to be, it's kind of what do I call this? It's called a discovery tour. I'm going on a discovery tour, see what's there for me, and to enter into greater cooperation and service with that. And I appreciate your time and thank you. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Okay. God
Thank you.
bless you. Thank you. Okay, Carla, thanks for your patience.
Course. Um, wow, this has been a really, really, really rich call. My question is about, um, I'm not sure what to call it, if it's thought energy or soul energy actually connecting. So the experiences I'm thinking of are, there are times when I've had a very, very tangible, like I can feel someone's presence right here with me. I can feel it. It's different than a thought. It's a tangible feeling. Sometimes there's someone who's here, sometimes it's someone who has passed. And I'm
You're
trying to
asking about perceiving entities?
um well, entity makes it feel kind of negative. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like good interactions with others, either here or have passed.
I see.
Um, and I don't, so I also, I think I'm uh considering like thoughts, like if I'm sitting here and all of a sudden someone pops in my head, like does that mean they're thinking about me, or did I just pull that out of thin air? I mean, and then that more tangible, does that mean on some other conscious level we're actually together in that moment? I'm tr Can you help me like sort that out?
Yeah,
Does
yeah,
that
yeah.
make sense?
Well, I think you're making, in a sense, you're making that process more complicated than I approach it.
What a surprise. Okay.
Well, I don't have a negative association with the term entity, so I was just asking more, are because some people have a karma where they see people like ghosts and things like that, and that's a whole thing.
No, it's
I
it's a
think what
phrase.
you're talking about is more the experiential reality of deep relationships with people and how they never quite leave you, in a sense, like you can continue to have that relationship. My so firstly, I've said over and over, and probably like a broken record, I've one of the most moving, powerful things that I've ever heard John Rogers say is all relationships are inside of you, and there's no excuse to withhold your loving. So all relationships are inside of me means that the one that I had relationship to anyway has always been inside of me. So even if they die physically, that relationship is still a part of me that we're talking about. The other perspective, since we're referencing Whitman, right? I contain multitudes. All of God's creation is expressed through my consciousness as well. I'm a microcosm of the macrocosm of all creation. So, in that sense, now this is why I say you're complicating things. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where it comes from. The God that is you, the knowing, the inner master is going to bring to you all those experiences and all those interactions that is your next opportunity for learning and liberation. So in a sense, it's like if you have this experience of somebody being there and say they're passed on or something like that physically or something like that, that's real And that's an opportunity for you to clear and heal and complete and do all those things. Maybe I'm not addressing what you're saying because I can't.
No, I mean, I think so. And what about, what about like I have a friend who moved up to Washington and, sometimes I'll actually feel his presence and it's like a tangible presence. It's not just a thought. Oh, I'm thinking about so and so.
Human consciousness is so incredibly powerful and ubiquitous. I could start describing to you a lemon, like biting into a lemon, and the sourness and the bitterness and the
I feel it.
texture,
Yeah.
and you can feel it. And as
Hmm.
you bite into it, and then you bite into the rind, and it's even more bitter. You see, like all these people on the call felt that. And you could say, well, that wasn't real. That was just my imagination. Well, as real as anything else, our entire experience
Mm.
is a simulated reality that's created by our consciousness so that we can gain learning and experience. So, in that sense, it doesn't matter if that person is present in your consciousness, whether it's because there's an akka chord between you or a psychic shunt or something, whether it's because he's in your etheric body double or that you're connected on the basics level. It can be useful at times to do that if it's getting in the to like know how it works if it's getting in the way. But most of the time, I just treat that experience as, oh, I get to love on this person right now. How do I know that I get to love on this person right now? Because they're right there. They just appeared in my consciousness. So that means that's the one that God's got for me to love and serve right now. So then I go to the hymn inside of me and I say, Beloved, how can I love and serve you? What is of highest service to you right now? And then I do that. But it's like, that's why I say it's like I have a more medicinal relationship to reality because I try to cultivate this assumption and bias that if I experience it, it is the one that I am to love and serve. Like I would even have this mantra when I'm dealing with people that piss me off. I started to just say inside of me because I realized my ego would always say, why is this person in my life? They're such a shit. What's their value add to existence? Can't they just disappear? My mind would do that. And it all became very simple when I just said, oh, this person's in my life so that I can love them. Oh, why is that shitty boss in your life? That shitty boss is in your life so that you can love them. That's the whole purpose that they're
Did
there.
you know?
No, but you get it. It's like
Yeah,
that,
I
but it's
do.
like the mind is what is this person's value add? Why did I do to deserve this? I'm such a nice person. I do the whole thing. But if all of a sudden you just go, oh, they're there because I'm uniquely qualified to love them in just the way they need to be loved,
Mm.
it shifts everything. So in that sense, it's like if somebody's called to your consciousness, I just go, oh, that's the one that needs loving right now. That's the one that needs light right now.
Okay.
Now, if you're guided to an awareness from that, it's like that doesn't preclude you from following what I call the cosmic breadcrumbs, because you may be guided and you may find, oh, the intuition that I'm getting is to call that person. So you call them and they go, "Oh my God, thank God you called.
Mm.
I really needed to talk to you." And then it's like, great, that was a really efficient communication mechanism.
Yeah.
That worked really well. But you see how, for me, the key is having a kind of an equanimity with all of it, where I don't romanticize or idealize the idea of intuition. I treat intuition like any other form of communication mechanism in reality. And I always just have like this check it out approach to it. And I always have this bias that just goes, okay, this appeared in my life so that I can love it and serve it. And it just, that's why I say it's just a lot simpler in my consciousness, because I tried to do all the other stuff. And I have really strong intuition by most people's standards. So I would really get into the detail of like, oh, it's appearing in front of me because of this and this. And we had a past life here and we did the whole thing there. But from a standard modus operandi perspective, it was just a lot easier to me to wipe that whole slate clean and say, oh, this person's there because I'm uniquely qualified to love and serve them. That's why
Okay.
they came to me.
Okay.
And it tried to, it's kind of started to flip me out because I would go to the doctor's office and I would go, well, I could assume I'm here so they can fix me because I'm broken and the whole thing and go into the whole hierarchy thing. Or I can say, oh, I needed to book this appointment because I have a unique loving and light that they needed right
Mhm.
now.
Mhm.
You see, it's just you have that assumption. It just
Yeah.
changes all of that. You can throw all the hierarchies and all the rights and the wrongs out the window. And it also changes our relationship with negative thoughts because just as like, you know, just as much as you can have a beautiful awareness of like connection with a person, you could also feel like your shitty boss is right there and you start to cringe a little. But the same response, you see, it's equanimity. It's like, oh, hello, you must be here because I'm uniquely qualified to love and serve you right now. How can I be of service? How can I love you? And then you go there.
Yeah, I think I've been separating that concept a little bit in whenever I'm called to minister, whether that's in my work as a chaplain or
Yeah.
my regular job. It's like, oh, okay, I get that I'm here to minister to this person and I bring in all that.
Yeah.
And you're right, I've been separating that from the person who just pops in my mind who's a dear
Yeah.
friend. Yeah, I get it.
But
Okay.
if you, but see, I just go extreme with the whole thing. It's just
Yeah.
like, it's my same thing with like how I relate to spiritual exercises. There's this wonderful book, so mindfulness is just this like overly quoted it's like
Yeah.
a buzzword
Yeah.
that everybody uses, just like
Yeah.
paradigm shift.
Right.
People don't read the structure of scientific revolutions anymore because they don't want to actually read about what a paradigm shift actually is. But like it's like all these buzzwords, but mindfulness was originally this wonderful book that was written. And when I read it, I remember my big takeaway was we create context artificially in our consciousness. Like, this is how I am on vacation, and this is how
Ah.
I am at home,
Mhm.
and this is
Mhm.
how. But if we're just the same one all the time, there's so much relaxation and peace that comes in with a presence that doesn't need story or context. There's so much peace that comes forward. So I started asking myself, what are all the ways where I create context? Now, there's a practical reality to context in the sense of like, I tend to be auditorially sensitive, so it's like shutting the door and having a quiet space. That's more physiological. But what I'm talking about is more the artificial constructs that we create in our head.
Mhm.
Now, what I realized is I was beating myself up about my spiritual exercises practices when I really had this opportunity to go, well, what if my whole life was a spiritual exercise? And I started just chanting all the time. So it's like you just start, you see what I'm saying? It's like you blow open those doors and those contexts. And so for me, that also became a key to intuition. I'm not going to respond differently to intuitive information than I do to physical information that I get from a person. I just check everything out, but I'm also equally loving with it and I'm also equally curious with it. And so it's like that started to open the aperture and I started to just see more because I no longer had these artificial constraints that I placed upon my relationship to reality. And that became really powerful for me. But it also, ironically, it's like the world became extremely infinite and yet microscopically simple. So it's like I zoomed in the sense that my modus operandi became hyper simplified and it became a series of microscopic moments of loving and serving. Like, dear Lord, let my vision be no greater than the next one that I'm to love and serve. It became microscopic, and yet my sense of communion with the cosmos of it all, the unity of it all, became a practical living reality like breathing. And then all of a sudden, the doorway to this, it's like these microscopic moments of connection and presence where listening was its own complete action, became this doorway into this infinite unity of being. And the loving was so big I would lose myself in it. So it's it's this way in which we create these microscopic moments of infinity. And and the way that we can do it with every single thought, if we just let ourselves do it. If we try to interpret it and reflect upon it and analyze it and make sense of it, we're already out of it. But if we can just be with it, whatever it is, if we can just be with it and listen deeply and love deeply, all of a sudden the doorway opens. Now, 5 seconds later, you might get a call from your shitty boss and then you cringe and then you're out of it. But then you have the opportunity again to
Yeah.
say, the cringe is its own doorway. If I
Yeah.
can be with the cringe and love the cringe and hold for the cringe and have a conversation with the cringe, maybe that's the next doorway to infinity. And that's kind of my approach. It does, it's not maybe as sexy as some of the other things, but it does work for me.
I get it. I get it. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you very much. I got to take all that in.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's helpful to have reference points. The presence that you have with your cat when you just sit and feel the softness of its fur and the texture, and you feel the rhythm, that soothing rhythm of the purr, and you just have it like, and it nudges up again. And in that moment, nothing else exists
Right.
except for the sensation and the loving that is present reflected back to you.
Right.
So it's like we do have those reference points, and that's why it's so powerful. It's like if you have a kid or you have an animal or you have a something, you maybe even for some people it's doing art, or maybe it's moments in yoga. We have these reference points when reality seems to open itself to us. And it may be for a blink of an eye, but at least it's there. At least we know that it's there. At least we know that under all of the negative thoughts, the images that we see and believe, the thoughts that we believe, under all of that underpinning is this shining infinite spark. And it's always there. And we get these glimpses of it, like looking through a keyhole and seeing God there in his easy chair.
Mhm.
And we're
Oh,
spying. We're spying and we see him.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Love you. Thanks.
God bless you. Thank you. Well, all right, folks, it's about that time. Um, Wishing you a beautiful rest of your evening. God bless you. I love you. Peace be still. The blessings already are.